in particular. Okay, thank you. In particular, I decided to speak about the project which I'm currently taking care of at university. It's one of the national projects as well in Malta, and it all started in 2019. 2019, the government of Malta wanted Malta to become one of the top, or at least a leading country in artificial intelligence. I think in Malta we are quite lucky because AI has been taught at university since the early 90s. In fact, even when I was still a student and Matthew was my supervisor, we had the department at the time of computer science and AI. Today, thank God, we have our own department as well, so we can conduct very active research in artificial intelligence. But in 2019, the government of Malta decided that the EU is moving towards creating the AI Act, which is currently being discussed at the moment. So might as well come up with a strategy for our country with regards to AI. And that led to the creation of the National.ai, the National AI, National Strategy. Out of that document, 6 pilot projects were identified. And one of them is precisely this project, which I'm going to explain. But I'll start by giving you a background about why it's important, especially when it comes to AI, why we should look into AI and see how to implement it in practically all aspects of our lives. So the world of today, something which is interesting me a lot as well, and which I actively do research as well, sort of, what's going to happen? How are things going to change? What is the impact of AI? In the past months, almost everybody's talking about AI in all aspects, basically because of ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is just a tiny piece of what's happening in the AI domain. So there's a lot much more happening, and that is why we need to look at it in an active way. So if you look at the news, sometimes you start thinking that the apocalypse is here. It's the end of the world. Scaremongering all over. 47% of jobs will vanish, according to Oxford. 10 million British jobs can be gone in 15 years, all right? And you start thinking that there's no place for humans anymore. If you look a little bit deeper, it's not really that bad. I mean, things are changing, and one of the things we're certain of is that there will be major disruptions. But there are also positive things. So AI will also create millions of jobs around the world, and of course, it will change the way in which we interact with practically anything, even our daily lives. However, this causes a lot of confusion. If you read just a snippet of it, you might get the impression that it's either one way or the other. But the truth is that there's this, let's say, big drive towards AI, even in our continent, in Europe. I'm quoting the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, where she's saying that this should be the digital decade of Europe. And she mentioned 3 specific priorities. So the first is data, because practically everyone is creating a lot of data, and a lot of that data is not being consumed or used properly. The second one is the infrastructure, so moving the data from one place to the other, so that the huge, big supercomputers can process the data. And the last one is the emerging technologies, in particular AI. Because when you have that scale of data, it is impossible to process it. So you need some sort of automations. What's the impact on jobs? As expected, there will going to be a big impact. It is estimated it will displace around 85 million jobs, and it will also create 97 million jobs. Of course, these are estimates, so take them with a pinch of salt. But as I said, most probably it will create a lot of disruption. And since we're seeing, this disruption on the horizon, now is the time to start preparing for it. And hence why, of course, we're working on these projects, because we need to sort of re-engineer what's happening in the educational system when it comes to the primary, secondary, basically compulsory education, but also at higher levels as well. So we're talking about upskilling and reskilling of the workforce. Another interesting statistic from the World Economic Forum is that for the first time, practically since the Industrial Revolution, the automation in industry will surpass human work. Okay, so as you can see at the bottom, by 2025, it's going to be 52%, and this is not surprising because if you start looking a little bit at what's happening in other countries, for example, in the Far East, we know that there are actually factories which are called lights out manufacturing. So, it means lights out because they don't use lights. They have robots. They don't need to see. And that is the trend of super automation of practically all the aspects. And now we're seeing this automation reaching us even in simple things like ChatGPT or other tools which are being developed. Here, I would like to make a parenthesis between task and job. All right, so it doesn't necessarily mean that AI will just kill all the jobs. Okay, but what's going to happen is that a lot of these tasks will become automated, and with the passage of time, we'll start seeing more and more of these tasks being taken over by the AI. So what will likely happen is one of these four scenarios. The first one is that some jobs will actually not be affected much. So these are the caring jobs mainly. So if I am in hospital, sorry, and I need assistance or I need to talk to someone, obviously I would prefer to talk to a person than to a robot. Before I used to say these are the caring and the creative jobs, but today I can't say the creative jobs because even that has been taken over now by the AI. The second kind of jobs are those that will become obsolete. The most obvious are, for example, the driving jobs. Now, with self-driving cars, we expect that the need for drivers will keep on declining, but also other jobs which we thought to be quite safe. And in fact, one of them is, for example, accountancy. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because accountancy is based on numbers. A computer knows how to process numbers. So these kind of jobs will be the first jobs that will be taken over by the AI. The third kind of jobs are those jobs that would still need to be created. Okay, so for example, one of the things we're seeing is the proliferation of more drones. Just last year, we had some testing, even here in Malta, where we tested the movement of medicine between Malta and our sister island, Gozo. And we did that with drones because they're much more quicker, efficient, and everything. So, when you start having these new technologies, you start adding other services. For example, a drone traffic controller. We need people to actually control the traffic going over our heads now. In this case, an organ creator. So imagine today, if I have an organ failure, I don't know, my heart or whatever, and I need to replace it, I need to wait for a donor, no? In the near future, we'll have people who will actually create organs for that specific body. They will print it using biological material, using a 3D printer or something similar, and then it's just a matter of implanting it inside the person. But the fourth kind, which is the one which is maybe the most popular, or the one that will happen the most, is what we call AI augmentation. So AI will start augmenting different parts of our jobs. And in this case, I place that picture specifically because sometimes we get the impression, or I would call it the illusion, that AI is only there to take the low-paid jobs. This is no longer the case. Okay, and in that case, I'll relate a case study. It was a study done in America where they got 20 corporate lawyers. They gave them NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and they told them, listen, and these NDAs contain some errors. Can you spot them? So the corporate lawyers, on average, took around 1.5 hours, and they managed to achieve 84% precision. The AI took 26 seconds with 94% precision. So as you can see, the difference is staggering between the two. Of course, and I know it's a lot. It's your wish. We're not saying we're getting away with lawyers, all right? At least not yet. But what will happen is that the jobs of these lawyers and other professionals, lawyers are just an example, will change drastically because of these tools which are currently available. If we were also to look at the trending jobs, on the left-hand side, we see the ones which are the usual suspects. No, they may be the most obvious. So the data analysts, the IT guys, AI guys. Nothing surprising over there. But on the right-hand side, you can see the ones that will be in decline. And over there, they're quite surprising. So you find accountancy in number 3 and 4, auditors, financial analysts, post-service clerks, bank tellers. Okay, so this is the impact which is expected from AI. Now, this is a report of 2020. So you can imagine the changes now to this list, given obviously things like the pandemic, but not only things like ChatGPT and these new generative models, which are practically invading a lot of the tasks which you see over there. Another interesting thing is that, even when I speak with employers, it seems that the most skills which are needed are basically the soft skills. Okay, and a lot of employers tell me, listen, one, we live in a world where things are changing very rapidly. Okay, so even if you teach them something at university, probably by the time they get out, it would have become outdated. So an important skills for employers is that students are able to learn, get a book, and learn new concepts on themselves. And the automation is taking over a lot of their jobs as well. So we need people that are very good at soft skills. So analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving. These are very much the skills which are desirable. However, there's a problem, and if I have to be honest with you, I didn't think about it. I was actually mentioned it to Mary yesterday. I was doing an interview with a corporate banker a few weeks ago in Canada, and he told me, listen, one of the current effects which we're having is that one is, of course, downsizing, but that's because of remote working. They don't need the space anymore. But the second one is that they're not employing juniors anymore. And, I wasn't expecting it. And I told him, but why you're not employing juniors? And he told me, why should I employ a junior when the AI now can do most of what he does, even probably better and cheaper? And it set me thinking, because it's quite problematic, because if we're reducing the opportunities of juniors, how will we have seniors sometime in the future? And I think that is something which we really need to look into. So that was the context. Now I'll start talking a little bit about the project. This is a picture of how they envisaged the year 2000. It didn't exactly happen like that, all right? We still don't have machines eating books, but we're getting close, I would say, all right? So why we started this project? Just to give you maybe a small story, it really started from my children. When they were younger, they had to study some maths, some mathematics, and you need some repetition, some examples. And being a programmer by spirit, and a lazy person like all programmers after all, I decided to create an Excel which actually created exercises for them. And surprisingly, they really loved this Excel, and they were constantly doing mathematical sums on this Excel. And even though it was a simple concept, it had some very powerful features. Like, for example, they knew sort of whether their answer was correct or wrong. Something which at school they didn't have, because they need to submit their work, then the teacher will correct it, and it takes time. But with a simple Excel, they got the results immediately. So it was extremely effective for my kids. And then I said, why not try to make it for all the kids? Because if they found it useful, probably even the other kids will find it useful as well. It was always at the back of my mind, this issue of the factory model, which thank God we're far away from those times. But still, it's still a classroom. You have 15, 20 students, and they still need to learn what the teacher is providing them. And something which we need to move to, in my opinion, is, of course, personalization. As much as possible, personalize our educational offering for the needs of each and every one of those students. This is also something that it really bothers me. So when I was little, I was always very good academically, but I do realize that not everyone is academic. That was the benchmark with which I was I was being tested, and I excelled in that. But imagine if at the end of the scholastic year, rather than having the academic exam, I would have a race, a 200 meters race, which, as you can imagine, I'm not very good at sports, not like Matthew. I would probably be the last one in the race, and I wouldn't be here today. So, it's a matter of how we're measuring our students, how we're measuring their learning. And I think it's very unfair that at the end they have the standard exam and everybody has to pass that exam, because, we're all different, we're all learning different things. And it's not just about academia. There are a lot of other things which are important. This is another quote which I really love. Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by the ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And sometimes I feel that is actually what we're doing. When I look at children, I look at my own children. I frequently go to schools as well, and I can see it a lot happening. That we have this test over here. If you don't pass this test, you're a failure. All right. Otherwise, you're good. I don't think it should be like that. This is another interesting concept. Can I ask you to do a quick exercise over here? So I have two lists over there. All right, they're anagrams. So can I ask maybe your side to be anagram 1 and the other side be anagram 2? If you follow that link, all right, so there are 3 words. So what I would ask you is to look at the first word and try to find the anagram for that word. Then look at the second word and try to find the anagram of that word. And then look at the third word and try to find the anagram of that word. So can I ask you to please get your mobile out and do it? So this side is group 1, all right? And the other side is group 2. They'll have a drink in the meantime. So there are 3 words, right? All I want you to do is for each word, find the anagram. Don't write it on the document, please, otherwise everybody will see it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Huh? They shouldn't. Okay. All right. That's the wrong link. Apologies. All right. Let me continue, Mela. Okay.
Anagram 1. So they're already done?
No, they're not done. Those.
They're not done, okay?
No. But maybe the 2 is done. Maybe the 2 is done. Okay. At least group 1 is not done. Let's say group 1 is not done. Okay. So if I were to ask you those in group 1, did you manage to do any? No? So group 2 is the smartest group here.
Or with internet.
Pardon?
Or
with internet, yes. That shows the disparity as well. We had huge problems during COVID with those people that didn't have access. Yes. Okay, let's continue. Listen, so group 1 are not the stupidest group, okay? It's just that they were impossible to do those, okay? And sometimes it happens in schools as well. We give sums or we give exercises which are beyond the capabilities of that child, okay? And then what happens? That child starts thinking or believing that he's not capable, okay? And that keeps on growing day after day, okay? In the end, we have this disparity between those that are considered the high flyers and those that are considered the low achievers, okay? So we have to be really careful what kind of exercise we give to our children. And that is why as well, our project is important, because we are personalizing education specifically for the needs of that child. Differentiated learning. So in recent years, especially in Malta, probably in other countries as well, they started this approach of differentiated learning, whereby the teacher has to create a set of different exercises based upon the abilities of the cohort which she has in class. Normally, they're divided in around 3 groups because, let's face it, it's very difficult to stay creating an exercise sheet for each and every child. But that is exactly why we're moving towards Education AI, because in Education AI, each and every child in class will have his own set of exercises, specifically for his or her abilities. Long lessons after each other. I mean, keep in mind what these children are consuming today. They're consuming TikTok, YouTube Shorts, now Instagram. And what does that mean? That means that they have a very short attention span. In a minute, they change a video, or maybe more than one in a minute. Yet we are expecting that, they go in class, they sit down, and they listen for 40 minutes for a lesson. And then they switch. And on the right, there's a teacher who's actually creating TikToks. I won't play. I'll play a little bit, but okay, I'll stop it. But it's in Maltese, all right, obviously, which you don't understand. But just preparing these shorts, which have been quite popular actually in Malta, and I think she's been invited on national television as well. But it's a different way of giving education to children. Now, these small bites of education, and maybe we should reconsider our classroom model, the one where you stay sitting for a long period of time. The other issue is, of course, home alone. No, not everyone has the luxury of parents or guardians who can assist him at home. So, if you're at home doing your homework and you're stuck, then tough luck. No. Digital distractions. Our kids are constantly bombarded with digital distractions, and somehow we need to help them to focus their attention, maybe grab it, make it more interesting. And the last one, which you all, I'm sure, know about it, is the AI is doing my homework, okay? Practically most children are using now ChatGPT or similar technologies. And in my opinion, I think we should embrace these technologies and see how we are going to change our modes of teaching children so that they can make the best use of these technologies. So, the aim of the project was to create an assistant which optimizes the learning of the students and guides them towards achieving good results. It's a web application, which means it can be accessed from different devices, so tablet, laptop, mobile phone. It offers personalized education. So, as I said, each and every child will receive a personalized set of exercises based upon his or her own abilities. It uses artificial intelligence to do that, otherwise it would have been impossible. And it guarantees quality education for all as well. Why AI is the solution? Because what we do is that we actually encode the exercises. Since we encode them, we can then generate almost an infinite number of exercises. Of course, it depends on the subject, all right? And I'll show you a second what I mean. It also holds the students, so we're trying to provide them even assistance when they're at home, when they have no one to help them out. But it also gives them the liberty to take control of their own learning. So if they fail, it's okay. You can try again. Very similar to what happens in a game. No, in a game when you die multiple times, it's no big deal. You can keep on trying. And here we're saying the same. From our initial statistics, we're seeing that it's much quicker and more effective as well. And we also provide different explanations because we believe that different children understand things in a different way. The target is twofold. On one side, it's the children, and on the other side, the educators. Why did we do this? When we started the project, one of the first meetings I had was with the Malta Union of Teachers. Why? Because the teachers, the educators, are important stakeholders. And the Malta Union of Teachers told me, listen, educators are very open to new technologies, but the problem is that they have been through so many reforms that they have this fatigue. So how can we help them to get over this fatigue? And the way we do that is by, of course, reducing the learning curve towards using the system. In fact, when we train teachers, it only takes about half an hour to get used to the system. But we also give them additional benefits which can help them in their job. So, for example, we are removing totally the creation of exercises. They don't need to create exercises anymore because it's the AI creating the exercises. No need for corrections. No, so no more correction time because it's the AI correcting. Access to analytics. Some of them used to collect statistics, but not all of them did that. Predictions. Who will be that child that at the end of the year will fail the exam? So we can pinpoint those children and, of course, flag it to the teacher so that she can then intervene. We appreciate that, the student ratio versus the teacher is what it is. I mean, we can't do much about that, but at least by reducing the load on the teacher, we can help the teacher to focus on the learning and focus on the learning on a more personalized level. So how does it work? When we designed the system, we decided that it should be as easy as possible. Okay, so we kept exactly the same process which happens today. So today, or when I was younger, you go to class, the teacher gives out the lesson, and then at the end of the lesson, it tells you, listen, these are the exercises, and everybody has to do them. All right. So we kept the system exactly like that. But the only difference is that at the end of the lesson, the teacher simply presses a button and the exercises are sent to each and every child on their own tablets. In Malta, every child has a tablet from year 4, 5, and 6, and those are the years we're targeting. So the children will receive the exercise on their tablet. The exercises are customized and personalized for each and every child. So you avoid the problem that this exercise is too difficult for me because I'm starting from my own level. But also the other problem, which we don't speak a lot about, is that this exercise is maybe not challenging enough for me. Let's not forget that we're talking about high achievers, low achievers, and those in between as well. So we need to challenge the high achievers as well, so that they're occupied, they're learning, and the teacher can focus on those children that actually have a problem. In Malta, the syllabus is divided into what are known as LOs, learning outcomes. And in fact, we codified practically all the LOs. We're handling mathematics in this case, okay? So it's about mathematical LOs. These are just some of them, but essentially they cover all the different concepts. You have around 600 something LOs that have been covered so far. Now, this is something which I wanted to show you because so far we're focusing on the bottom part, okay? And what happens is that we have a number of learning outcomes. In this case, I made it 10 to keep it simple. We created sample questions for them. I said 100 in this case. All right. Then for each and every one of those, we have a system to create questions with different difficulties. Okay, and that immediately boosts up the amount of questions from 100 to 500. All right, then we use AI generated questions. Of course, we're constraining the AI in that case to generate as many questions as we want. And in the case of mathematics, since it's something which AI can easily replicate, and we can test the validity of those questions, we can generate a practically infinite number of questions over there. Now we're doing experiment with others like literacy, English literacy, and media literacy. As you can see, we're still working on the applied literacy. From 50 questions, it went up to 150 with the different varying difficulties. But then using the AI, we managed to get around 100,000 different questions. Once again, we're still working on it because, even though there are some amazing models, as ChatGPT and whatever, we still cannot guarantee the validity of those questions and those answers. So until we manage to find a way of guaranteeing that, then of course, we will not deploy it to students. So in a very simple term, how does the system work? So the student starts from his own level. So we have a sum over there, and he starts with a simple maybe true or false answer. Then it starts moving up, increasing the level of difficulty. As soon as the student has a problem, the difficulty is readjusted backwards. And the system continues going back and forth in order to make sure that the student is comfortable with those questions and he can actually proceed towards the more difficult questions. Okay. We also have automatic correction. So at the end of the exercise of every sum, the system tells you what was wrong. and also shows sort of giving feedback about, what was the wrong answer and which was the correct answer as well. Okay. The next step is to move forward towards coming up with an explanation of maybe that concept, but also about why it was wrong. All right. As I said, we implemented a gamification system. So we gave it this narrative of superheroes. So as soon as a child logs into our system, has to choose our superhero. The superhero can be customized, so different color, different top, glasses, whatever, hairstyle. All right. And we implemented a number of gamification elements. These are not all the ones we implemented, all right, but we implemented quite a number of them. So there is points, progress, leaderboards. Well, quite a number of them. But of course, there are other ones which we would like to look at as well. The system shows the progress of the let's say superhero to the student. All right, and we have things like badges, streak boss, overachiever. All right, and we have specific rules for each and every one of them. Number of correct answer, XP. So the narrative we gave it is that, listen, if you learn mathematical concepts, it's like as if you're getting superpowers in that particular task. And as you can see over there, there are the superpowers. The superpowers were chosen by the student, but we associated them to the exercises then. It's done automatically by the system. And, if one of my superpowers is going down, so my invisibility is not 100%, for example, I simply press train and the system creates a set of exercises to help me understand that concept even better. And of course, there's the weekly leaderboard, the shop over there, so you can actually buy new stuff as well. So we created this kind of ecosystem for the students. We try to create or give individual attention to each student. So first of all, AI selects the best question for the student. So what should we ask to the student? Which question is, not overwhelming, but just enough so that he can proceed in his learning? AI suggests revision work based on past performance. So we analyze the performance of the student throughout the previous exercise, and then of course provide new sums. AI monitors the problematic questions, okay? And once again, we give first feedback to the student. If the student is not managing, then we alert the teacher so that the teacher intervenes directly with the student. And there I build a model to predict the work needed. So what happens here is that we train an AI based upon the past performance of the student. And like that, we can try to predict sort of the future issues which the student would have. So for example, one of the things which we predict over there is, one of the things which we predict over there is, for example, how many sums are needed, all right, by the student. So a few years back, which I think it's an issue which crops up every so often as well, is, how much homework should students have at home? Is it 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 5 hours? I don't know. But why should we choose something arbitrary? Why not give homework based upon what the student actually needs? Okay, so if one of you is really good at maths, our AI model will predict that maybe in 5 sums you can understand that concept. Okay, but if I'm really bad at maths, maybe I need 15 sums, 20 sums, I don't know. And that is what the AI will be doing in that case. We also have a set of remote assistants. So far, we are implementing the wizard one. So we have hints, so they can get very simple textual hints. Remember, in this case, we're talking about, I think it would be 8 to 9-year-olds are the youngest one we have. So they have to be really simple. We have video hints as well for each and every LO. We have a sort of wizard which we're working on, and eventually we move to the chatbot. But the problem with the chatbot and why we didn't implement it immediately is because, for a chatbot, you need to formulate a query. And we wanted to avoid that part since we're dealing with very young children. But we're looking at ways of implementing that at the moment as well. As I hinted before, we also provide the teacher with a lot of information. So a teacher can see the different learning outcomes, so counting up in steps of 2, and statistics about, who managed to achieve them, who finished the exercise, how much time they took. Practically, we're recording all of this information and also providing it to the teacher, because the teacher then has to report back about the performance of the students as well. So we are automating that part for the teacher as well. Benefits, so for the students, is provide personalized education, uses a gamified approach, contextual explanations as well. Educators, no need to create worksheets, no need to correct the work, provide like an AI teacher assistant with flex struggling or gifted students. And we estimate that it actually saves around 1 month of work for this teacher, which we hope, of course, that she uses this month of work to dedicate it to more personalization, physical contact with the students. For the administration, it guarantees quality education and explanation. You know, that it won't have an issue whether this teacher finished the syllabus or she did something different. All right, so we're streamlining everything, and also that it's up to date as well. These are some statistics so far of last year, actually. So learning outcomes, we had finished 4 and 5. Now we finished the 6. Example hints, we covered all the syllabus of mathematics, all right, in this case. Teachers who used the system to 110, students 7,600, average class grade was 70%, and that is the number of generated questions by the AI so far. Of course, you know, every day it's growing because it's all automatic. This was an evaluation which we did at the beginning. It was a very short, it was just a 1 month evaluation, but we wanted to understand whether, you know, we're going in the right direction or not. And what was surprising is that, you know, after just a month of using the system, and we also had a control group, the high achievers had a 6% increase. The average students also had a 6% increase, but the low achievers had an 18% increase. We were quite impressed with this. We weren't expecting this, to be honest. Now that, you know, we have the sort of, we can look in hindsight, we're starting to understand why that increase is there. But of course, we're gathering more data to validate our results as well over there. Some testimonials which we got. Students enjoy using the system. It was very engaging for the students. It will greatly facilitate how we give work to students. So on the whole, it was quite positive. As you can see, they want it for other subjects as well. And that is why we're trying to look at how to do it for other subjects, because you appreciate that mathematics, it's easy for a computer, but the other topics are much more complicated, but we're getting there as well. We have a prototype for English at the moment, and we'll continue with the development and testing of the system. That was it. The project is still ongoing. Stephen, which you met, is currently doing experiments in schools as well. So we're collecting a lot of data. We're getting feedback. We're trying to keep this, you know, open relationship as well with the teachers, because if they need changes, we'll be happy to change it for them. And hopefully we'll manage, you know, to reach a lot of children and make a difference in their lives. Thank you.
Got some time for questions. First one coming up.
First of all, well done. It was very interesting. I think that although we are concentrating on education on children, we are missing 2 important components, and not just in Malta, I think worldwide. We are missing the component of andragogy and of geragogy, when we are talking about adults and about senior citizens. While it's important, obviously, to concentrate on children because of very obvious reasons, I think that even currently, people who are of my age, and they are not highly skilled, they are really afraid and they are really concerned about AI and everything, and they are thinking in Terminator mentality. And senior citizens, on the other hand, they have another issue, which is not the fear of losing their jobs, obviously, but they are being cut off from what's happening, and they are feeling helpless sometimes, even just using simple things like television, remote controls. I think that we need to also concentrate, and I don't know if you are thinking about something at the Institute for Artificial Intelligence, about, first of all, campaigns maybe with the government or whatever, on how to educate a certain strata of society that, yes, AI is not going to get you fired, or if not, there are other opportunities which you can use AI for. And on how to reach senior citizens, and in this case, there could be apps. Nowadays, senior citizens, see my mother, she is 79 almost, and she uses iPad and with Facebook and so on. So I think that apps geared directly to them, not done for children, because obviously they are not children, could be an idea. I don't know if there is already some plans on working on something like this.
Okay, thank you, James. So with regards to your comment, it's a very fair comment. Of course, the project's focused on children, so it's the remit of the project. But we have other things going on. So, for example, the questions I showed, they're actually of another project. In that case, we are targeting early school leavers. So they're a higher cohort, and we're targeting numeracy literacy and media literacy as well over there. And that's why we're expanding as well in those areas. But once we managed to have, how to put it, a good approach over there, we can easily expand it as well to adults. So that's what I'm looking at, because it is also my belief that the future of education is in micro learning as well. So if you are working and you probably don't have time because you have your own family, other commitments, etc. You have to sort of find the time, the small slots where to learn. And the current model, that's even the online model, now that where you have a lesson for 1 hour or 2 hours online, I don't think it will work with a lot of people. What I'm sure as well, as I hinted before, is that I don't know what AI will do, but it will cause a lot of disruption. So I feel that we need to urgently go for the upskilling and the reskilling of our existing workforce. So definitely, once we reach those, it will be also easier to reach the elderly as well, which, as you said, I mean, the concerns you mentioned are very real. We've seen them during the pandemic. We've seen a lot of people get isolated if they couldn't use a tablet or whatever. I can tell you from my father as well, which so it's a real problem what you mentioned. And yes, on the information side, this was part, or should have been part, it actually is, of the national strategy. So the national strategy already looks at this issue and at the widespread education of the general population. Okay, to be honest, I don't think it's started yet, but yes, we need to go there. Thank you.
So two-part question. First question is, you said the AI generated questions. Are those coming from an authoritative source that has been vetted? Because I saw an infinity sign on there. And then the second question is, since the teachers now get time to focus on the kids that are struggling, and that obviously was an 18% increase, do you have any insights on some of that reinforcement learning that got that higher percentage for the underachievers?
Okay, so for the first one, yes, it's so what happens is we call them blueprints of the questions. Those blueprints are created by the teachers. All right, then we codify how they are worked, and then the AI can keep on generating new ones from that. So that's how it's working. With regards to the insights, we don't have insight because we're collecting more information, but my hunch is that what's happening is that it's not just about the reinforcement learning. I mean, that's part of it, and it's an important part of it, but also because we are giving them a level which is, good for them. So like the example which I said before, when a teacher tends to give an exercise, now everybody has to do the same exercise. So if I'm not good at mathematics, I still have to do that. And for me, it might be overwhelming. And causes the problem, which I mentioned later on, that I might start thinking that maths is not good for me. So what happens is that since I'm starting from maybe a lower level, but which is my level after all, and then I start going up slowly, then it's building their confidence in the subject. So that is what I think is happening. Of course, coupled with the reinforcement learning, that's for sure. But we don't have tangible things at the moment, which is something which we're collecting as we go along. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. You know, your presentation was fantastic, and I think we're in agreement with almost everything that you put up there. And it's gratifying to see an educator and a technology person trying to grapple with producing these products, because we have a lot of products like this not produced by people with expertise. But what I see you're doing, and as others are doing, in mostly literacy and math, which is kind of easier to do, is digitizing the textbook and then differentiating it and adding all these extra things. And it's fantastic, and we need a lot of models like that. But my question is, that impacts on the ecosystem of the classroom and the school. What can we do about that? You know, it changes time, it changes where you do things, it changes where one person works or 5 students work or 6, or whether there's one teacher or 2 teachers, and we're stuck with the infrastructure of the school, the timetable.
Yeah.
What do you do in Malta, at least, you know, at national level or some level, to say we have to bring down the walls, take away the timetable, retrain our teachers? Is there anything in that direction that, because to implement this effectively, you need a new ecosystem
Yeah.
and a new set of teachers?
Yes. Okay. So thank you for the question. I'm very much in agreement with what you said. I don't agree with the current system. The problem is that, of course, you know, it's there, it's set, so it's very hard to change. So I think this is the first step, because, you know, we're giving the time back to the teachers, so we're allowing them to explore things, because before they couldn't do it. One of the constant let's say comment which I get from teachers is that, you know, we don't have time. We have a syllabus, we have to cover it, let's rush through it. Probably that's it, let's rush through it, not teaching, because after all, it's about finishing that syllabus. So what we're doing here is that we're saying, listen, let's try to help you to reduce that time, okay, so that you have ample time then to do other things, and to explore different methodology. I think that's the first step. The second step would be a big overhaul, as you said. In fact, I'm also part of another committee at the moment, and that will be one of the let's say recommendations. The problem is that it's very politically sensitive, something like that. And I'm not saying politically with big P, with small p, because you have, you know, the teachers, the unions, the administration, and when you start proposing something which is a little bit different, everybody starts panicking, you know. But I think I agree with you that that is the direction we should go.
We weren't shy about saying what's going to happen in the workplace elsewhere, but why are we shy about saying that this workplace needs to change? That's all I'm asking. That, you know, how do we have a campaign anywhere, or how do we include it in our conversations that the workplace of the university or the school, that has to change as much as those banks are changing, or you know, the other things that we.
No, I agree with you. Like yesterday, I had one of these meetings, and you know, it was very obvious that it's as if everybody was comfortable with changing from post-secondary upwards, but don't touch secondary school downwards. And I don't understand it, because if I have to be honest, and I've done quite a number of interviews with a lot of people now, I got I have another project. It's about the future of education and work, and I have quite a good understanding of where the problem is. And if I have to be honest, I think the problem is secondary school. Because at primary school, even though there is still that rush, it's as if teachers still have, you know, a little bit of leeway, and they can explore other things. For example, in my school, they do Forest Week, which I think is the only school in Malta that actually does Forest Week. So they have a little bit of more leeway over there. But in secondary school, it's a straitjacket. They can't do anything. They have this low. And what I don't understand is things like, for example, they don't even consider the amalgamation of certain subjects. I don't know. A good example, which actually happened in my school as well to one of my children, was when they exposed them to forensic science. Okay, so, you know, they created a crime scene, And then they had to use chemistry, biology, physics to find out who was the culprit in that crime scene. But you see, the amalgamation of different topics, it's not just, concepts up there, the abstract ones, but we're finally seeing things being tangible. And for children, it's something, much more appealing than staying in class and listening to the teacher. So I agree with you, but I think it's sorry, but I get frustrated about this point.
Okay, I'm Paul from Simon Fraser University of Canada. Alexiei, I think I agree totally with you about catering the need of the different student of different capability. And you mentioned mathematics, which is very relevant to my own chemistry teaching. I do have mixed feeling in that in terms of implementing. For one, easy, reaction if I propose the idea to my colleague is they have prerequisite. Okay, when the student take the second or third year chemistry course, for example, they should have a basic level. Okay, but they may forget, right? Or these prerequisites may be taken a few years ago. So if I implement some of these, review question or review exercise, and it will be easy to do it under AI assisted mode, like in some sort of electronically implemented course. For instance, the student will need to go through exercise 1 or 2 if they feel that they need to review their math foundation. If not, you jump to 3. Okay, so if that's the case, then it will cater for the need of various students. Particularly nowadays, we talk about equity. We talk about giving more to the underachieved student so that they can feel that they have the ability to learn more and to achieve higher. So now it comes that the way to go through this. Okay, AI, I think according to most of the expert will think, okay, this is very easy to do. Okay, but for us, we're not, I don't grow up with AI. Okay, I do have Canvas. Okay, I do have long kappa. Okay, those are the things that I can talk to the colleagues as to how to implement the idea that you have come across. But my question to you is, what is the way to incorporate those ideas without much cost, even though you mentioned that there's benefits to the teacher or instructor to implement to save time, but the setup time is quite a lot. After it is set up, I believe it will save the time. So my question to you is, what is the easier way, 1 or 2 or 3 for the setup? Thank you.
Okay, so no, in this case, the setup is automatic. So what's happening is that we are creating all the syllabus for them. The teacher just uses it. That's why I said before, in half an hour, they are set up and start using it. Okay, now the question becomes relevant when you say, listen, what about a new subject? So imagine we want to include chemistry. No, all right, what it involves. And for that, we are actually looking at using tools like ChatGPT to create the questions. Okay, but it will be the sort of the first part, which will then be verified by the educator. So like that, we are reducing as much as possible the time required to set up the system for chemistry, for example, and we still get the verification by the educator. That is what I'm thinking of at the moment, and what we'll be working on to try to do exactly that. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Alexiei, for your insights. A small gift from the organizing committee conference. Thank you for